Hello. Once again, we are doing our thing on the garden. And I've got the garden here for you to look at. I'm trying to get the whole garden's in there. Okay. The garden's there for you to look at. I'm going to be answering viewer questions if they come up. I'm just going to talk for I'll talk for 25 minutes if nobody shows up, because this is going to be my show today. But, and I'm kind of used to talking without getting any real response. But the first thing about today is, as you know, I'm going to try and wait for someone to show up. I did find out something interesting today that I did not know. And that is that the 25th of July, which is today, is the day out of time. And that's what they call it. And it comes out of the Mayan tradition. Someone's on. The Mayans had a 13-month lunar calendar, which is 13 times 28, which is 364, which is an unfortunate choice if you're on a planet that goes around the sun 365 days. So they had this kind of extra day. So I guess at some point they sat down in one of those temples with the snakes all over it and one of the lovely pyramids that are buried in jungle, and said, what are we going to do with this extra day? High autism mom plans. I'm talking about the fact that today is the 25th of July, and in the Mayan calendar, that's called the day out of time. And the day out of time comes, and I already did the math on this, there's 13 lunar cycles, 13 moon cycles, which are 28 days. And so that gets up to be 364 days. So you end up with an extra day, and today is that extra day. And they actually have a lot of traditions around it, and it's called, it's called a free day for spirit energy. Anybody can can participate. It's just an extra day in the year, and so there's no restrictions on it. It doesn't belong to a certain god or anything else. It's just a free day for spirit energies. And what their traditions state is that it's a typical for openings of portals. You can do everything or you can do nothing to join in. It's just a free day. It was also a day when they expressed a lot of gratitude because there was nothing hanging over them that they had to change or heal. It's known as a healing day. It's also known among other people who've watched for this out of time day. It's out of time because it doesn't fit in any of their lunar calendars, any of the Mayan calendars. It's also called a yellow seed day, which is a day to plant plants, start new beginnings, and those yellow seeds also mean within our own souls. It's a day of I guess you don't got to. Well, I don't know. Wally World participates in it being a free day, but we'll see. But this is a quote from the Mayan Oracle, Return Path to the Stars, by someone named Ariel Spilsberg and Michael Burns. And what they said is, cosmic consciousness is not just out there. It's also resonating within you. And then they went on to do a long paragraph, which I'm going to copy and get out somehow, about it's a day to acknowledge the fact of the connectiveness. It's kind of like the same thing. Thank you, Vivian. We're sending love back to you. It's kind of like the thing Danny and I were talking about the other day, about how all the vibrations and all the energies are in you. And on this particular day, they're not tied to a lunar calendar. They're not tied to anything. They're just us. And so it's a day to engage in questions about the ley lines and the new energy that's shifting, because what the Mayans said is that when people got tuned into having this day of freedom, this day of gratitude, this day of just complete spiritual openness, that the star seeds would begin to see more of what they're supposed to do on this planet. And I certainly hope that's true. Anyway, to go back to our more normal pattern, but I just thought I'd heard about the Mayan calendar didn't quite work and they did some adjustments. I never knew what. When the Romans recreated their calendar and they put Julius Caesar, who is July, and Augustus Caesar, who was August, were named after them. If you go up, much of the months kind of makes sense. They're named after gods or whatever thing. But September is not the 8th month, nor is October. October's not the 8th month, nor is September the 7th month of the year. They all got pushed to. And because September, October, November, December are named after Roman numbers. They're named after 7, 8, 9, and 10. But we got 12 months in the year. They stuck 2 in the middle. And so people have been playing with time like this for a long time. But I'd never read a really good article about this till this morning. I woke up and I actually had 2 of them posted to different places. So I thought, that sort of fits with today. That's kind of how I feel about today. And the stone I picked for today kind of really fits with this. And I didn't pick it. It's the one I drew. It's called Shootakite. And Shootakite is, I don't know if you can see it, but it's beautiful. It's got purples, it's got greens, it's got reds. And the actual meaning of this stone is this magical stone from the crystal world with its beautiful blue and green hues freely offers up powerful healing vibration. And that's the other thing they talked about in the Mayan calendar. They believed this was the day when we healed our spirit and our bodies. So this is a healing day. It's a medicine that encourages you to connect deeply with your teachers, your guides in the spirit world. And like it said, it's opening the portals and making that easier to happen. Be open to the wisdom that lies within you and step onto the path as a teacher. It is also a time that's created from sacred space where you can learn and heal from your own challenges and your own experiences. It's a wonderful stone to go along with this day. You can understand and integrate the lessons you face in your life, create deep wisdom. It invokes wisdom with inner teachers. This stone also, when you work with it, can open your heart chakra, allows you to share wisdom from a place of love, supports you to share the divine wisdom of the universe, and connects you with your teachers and guides. And you can sort of filter them through. I'm trying to get the circle light out of that. Filter them through. You can ask for guidance for a specific person and how you can help them. This stone's also there for that. It also relates to 3 chakras because it's got so many brilliant colors in it. And a lot of times the chakras decided by the color that's in the stone. And the 3 chakras it can help you with is the crown, the throat, and the heart. And heart regulates our interactions, throat regulates our ability to communicate, and the crown is expanding up to our higher teachers. So it's a great stone for a great day. That's a holiday I never knew I had before, and now I will always remember it because it ends up. It's the day before what was my first wedding anniversary when I got married the first time. It's that date you want to forget, but you never can really, kind of. Anyway, that's our crystals for the day. Yay, you made it. I saw you, Pete. Peace, empathy, and love for all. Wonderful. Okay, and as you know, I've been working with the garden, and this is the garden. And I read for today, I already rolled out the stones for today. And what it says is that a lot of the work that we're going to be doing today, the clarity is going to come from working with old energies, bringing them forth. Our body will embody. And somebody said, what's it mean when you say your body will embody? It means that you will bring in physically the crown chakra energy of enlightenment. And particularly when the body stone hits enlightenment, it means light force will guide you will be guided into your physical realm, your physical movement. I'm trying to move things so I don't hit a keyboard or a mouse here. And These two stones show that emerging towards us is a reawakening of our spirit, a reawakening of our mind, and our third eye has our third eye has insights. It means our intuition is going to grow in abundance. So I hope that today's lessons do that for us. The next part of this, and I'm going to get to it because it gets really crazy with my schedule if I don't. I once a day have a vision about a space on the board. That's why I'm doing 21 days in the garden, because there's 20 spaces around here, and then I'm going to talk about more of the general things. I'm not sure it's only going to be 21 days. It may be a little bit longer. It depends. But last night, I went to sleep and I said, okay, show up. And my fickle flower of fate that I always put on the spot we're going to talk about is true. And when I woke up in the true space, I had blue and green, and I had smaller pieces that were little bits of information I'd gathered together, and then there was larger pieces, and there didn't have to be a trade-off between understanding the smaller bits and understanding larger bits. But in this space, I was feeling connected to everything and with all others. Positive answers, this always means positive answer, followed by almost a little illumination of fairy lights in my brain. Sensing plainly that magic, spelled with a K, is there, and that I am the magic. It's a feeling. You don't know it. You can't do a fact trail back to what the answer is. You just understand and feel the answer, and feel it in a way that you say, I know this is the truth. Sensing the vibration of truth to your very core. True, True in capitals, is lined up at this time. Truth can require sometimes inaction from us. Sometimes we hear the truth and you're going, oh no, but I want to go change that. You're not going to change it. Other stones tell us, in other words, if you get a stone in true, the other stones will tell you the elements that can temper that truth. That may be things you need to look at to help manifest that truth more quickly. Because when you have a thought that's in truth and you just know it and you feel it in your whole vibration, your body's ready to let it go and turn it into a particle and make it a reality, make it part of what's going on around you, what we call reality, which is kind of the illusion of the particles that we live in. The other stones will temper that truth. How do I get those waves to particles? Well, we don't do it when we're sitting in 3D elements, because when we're in 3D, we're judging it, we're questioning it, we're having to find a fact trail to get there, we're just not trusting. When we're in 4 or 5D, we just observe. You need to support your own truths and speak them, which is the throat chakra, which is also truth. Speak the truth and embody the truth. Now, when we get into ego, we get into what we call not truth, but truthiness. And Stephen Colbert gets props for creating that word, and it ended up in the dictionary. And truthy means ness, N-E-S-S, means like the truth, but not the truth. Something someone tries to pass off as the truth. Now, I used a term in here that I don't know how many of you are really familiar with, called temper. And I said we need to temper how we view whatever falls into true with the meanings of the other crystals, with the meanings of the other stones and where they land. And the reason for that is, I don't know how many of you have ever done this, but I was a chef's apprentice in a pastry kitchen once, and we worked with a lot of high-end chocolate stuff, and I made croquembouches and spun chocolate and spun sugar and did all kinds of fun stuff. And we used to make big sugar ribbons. It was great fun. Fortunately, I got pregnant, and you can't be pregnant and do that work because you've got a kid between you and the table. But it was fun when I did it, and I enjoyed it, and I learned a lot. But one thing I was very good at was what they call tempering chocolate. And what you do when you temper chocolate, you mix the things that are going to make the chocolate look wonderful and glaze on your goods, whether it's a cookie or on top of a cake or whatever. But you have to get it to just the right temperature with just the right mix of ingredients. Pastries are more chemistry than baking. They really are. And this particular thing is very much, if you don't get it high enough, it won't be that shiny. If you get it too high, it will actually have white streaks where you've burnt. And trust me, burning doesn't mean turning the heat up high. So when you learn to temper chocolate, you learn to do it very slowly and take your time and make sure that you have the balance of all the elements you need to make that chocolate come out perfect. The other thing that I learned how to do from my chef was you would touch the spoon with the chocolate up to your lip, and he taught me, he tempered some chocolate and said, this is the temperature you want to feel it, and I felt it. And my mind, my body could embody that piece of information. And I was very, very good at tempering chocolate. As a matter of fact, they used to have me do it all the time because there were other people in the kitchen who couldn't. So tempering means taking all the elements and moving them together so that they all fit. And tempering also makes great sense because if you heat it too high, the molecules move too fast and they don't make what you want. If you don't get the heat to the right balance, it's not going to happen either. But when you get a stone in truth, and we've had stones hit in true, it's like when the sun shows up in a tarot reading. You know it's true. You know it's right, and you know it's real. And that's kind of what I saw when I was in true. When I saw I was in true, it was very red and green. It was very bright. As far as an environment, I just felt very connected to everything. I just knew that whatever was happening when I was in that space, it meant that was a thing that's ready to be launched into our universe and become truth. So that ties together with tempering, ties together with a letter I got. And if you guys have questions, type them in. I'm going to be getting to questions in a second. That's not me tossing anything. It's just me throwing the stones down. I sent a letter out to a bunch of people who'd got my grids and said, hey, knock, knock, knock. The grid's doing anything? Yes, no, and different. I had one woman who wrote me back and said, had nothing. Nothing has changed around me, but I'm being patient. But this is an interesting one. She said, my grid is doing some things, and she put that in capitals. Once I got past trying to recharge it every day, it's been smooth sailing. Now that you ask to come to my full, now that you ask, I can fully realize my growth. My grid is healing me. I'm experiencing healing at all levels that I didn't know I needed to. I'm speaking up for myself, healing all wounds, repairing my relationships with family members. I'm doing the violet flame every day and most nights. My insomnia that I've had almost all my adult life is now gone. I sleep easily, and if you ask my dreams to be vivid, I see them. Even though I personally don't, quote, know, unquote, them, I ask my spirit guides for small things during the day, and they help me. And she wants to come on. She's volunteered to come on and be one of my people who got a grid, who is willing to talk about her experiences. Now, the line in there I want you to listen to is when she first got the grid, it didn't really work because she fired it up every single day. She put her ego and her third dimension energy in that every single day. That's why I'm talking about when I say, you know and feel something's true, then don't try to question it, don't try to modify it, don't try to say, but I don't want that. Even if the truth is not what you want, you need to understand the truth is the truth. And her trying to fire her grid up every day, it's something I'll say to you, and I've talked to other readers about this. There are times when we have people who come and they ask the same question every single time. Every single time they want to know, is Mr. Right coming back? The guy I've been in love with for 5 years, why isn't he here yet? And all this stuff. And it's always the same question, and it's because they're obsessing so hard on getting the answer they think is right. When the cards, and I'm sure the garden, would tell them they need to back off and go focus on something else, and then things that are supposed to happen will happen. So that's kind of a word of warning. But I will take questions from anybody, and if you don't ask questions, then I will ask a couple general questions for the energy around us today on the day out of time. And then if we don't get questions, we'll be out of time because I've got a couple more things to read from. Oh, I do have a question. I'm sorry. Oops. Sorry. And this lady gripes me because she said I don't look at the list. I do look at the list. What if we know, how do we know if we're hearing our own guides? So the situation is listening to your own guide, understanding it's your guides, or just thinking it's something that's intuition. Now, I don't understand why you think hearing your guides and intuition is two different things, and I'll tell you why after I roll the stones. But we're going to see the situation about hearing our guides. Woo! Okay, it says, use your values, go for it, and it's true. Couldn't have been better. Your sacral chakra, which is where new ideas and things come from, yeah, it may feel like intuition, but a lot of times it's tied to something that's inkling you from the past. Almost in the middle, but not quite, you got spirit. And spirit's coming out of earth. In other words, you sense that spiritual development in you is moving forward. Your body, your body's part of the process, and things around you are part of the thoughts. But the clarity comes from understanding that new things are coming towards you and not tying into the false, not tying into the things that seem wrong. And about your intuition. When I met my guides, when I met Addie, I was at a conference with Brian Weiss, and some of you heard this story, but I was at the conference and he hypnotized us. There were 800 people in this room. He hypnotized us 5 times that day. And one of the hypnosis he put us in, and I don't hypnotize easily, so I was sort of amazed when I looked at my watch. I wasn't even sure I'd been hypnotized the first time because I didn't get a message, but I looked at my watch and 20 minutes was gone. The second time he said, well, let's go see if you can meet your guides. Well, I had never met my guides. I knew I probably had them, but I started out doing psychic fairs in the era where everybody's guide was a pharaoh or an Indian chief or something very elaborate. It seemed very elaborate to me, and I was like, I don't know if I want that kind of energy trailing around behind me, although I guess it's there, so I just won't acknowledge it. So he said, you're going to go meet your guide, and I kind of nodded off, and all of a sudden I was standing in a pre-Revolutionary War kitchen in the South. Now, I happen to have toured plantations, and so I've seen this, so I knew exactly where I was, and I was like, huh? How'd I end up here? And I turned around, and there was the most incredibly tall, beautiful, statuesque African woman, dressed like a slave with the big apron and the cross things and the big white thing and the turban. And I turned around and went, oh, hi. And she said, hello. And I said, what's your name? And she said, it's Addie. And I said, well, I guess you know I'm Nancy. And she said, oh, yes. And the first thing I did was apologize to her for not having looked for her earlier or having to want to have that kind of a strong personal relationship. And she said, it's okay, darling. You just did everything I told you to do. You just followed your intuition. So that's where I think your guides are also part of your intuition. Anyway, Addie and I kind of looked at her and I'm like, now what do you say to this guide you've had for 68 years that you've never paid any attention to? And or consciously paid attention to. So I went and I looked at her. I said, well, okay, why am I here? I mean, why was this person in my soul put in this body in this time? And she said, come with me. And we walked across the kitchen. And I don't know if you've ever been in one of these. They were big places and they had a big, huge fire pit. And we went walking past it. And in the corner was a cupboard. And cupboards in colonial times were just built into corners because it was wasting lumber to build them out straight. They were like just, you've seen them, the corner cabinets, literally corner cupboards. And she said, open the door. And I was like, okay. So I opened the door. And it was the biggest mess. I mean, there was everything but the kitchen sink because they didn't have kitchen sinks in there. And I looked at her and I said, this is a mess. What is the deal? You know, I mean, why is it like this? And she said, oh, that's your job. You help people open up their corner cupboards and straighten out their messes. And when I woke up from that reading, from that seeing, from that experience, I knew that was absolutely right. And when I told friends who've watched me read for a long time and my old high school friends, they said, yeah, you're the one everybody came to get things straightened out. That was your job. Addie'd been there helping me do that all that time. The other thing I can tell you about your guides, because this woman refers to the fact she doesn't know their names. You can know their names. There's a couple ways you can do it. You can sit down, put in a blank piece of paper. Just write it and just ask your angels, ask your guides, ask the guide that's guiding you, what's your name? After I met Addie, I wrote to Addie. We would correspond with her a little bit, writing like that. It's okay, Angelita, you can go back and see the beginning. Lots of fascinating stuff. But one of the things that I did is I said, okay, if I have, most people say they have 2 or 3 guides. And I mean, taking care of one, Addie, I love her, but taking care of one seems to be plenty for me. But anyway, I sat down. I said, okay, who's my other guide? And the first word that came out in the paper from my hand was Frank. And what's funny about that is I had a grandson who decided he was going to call me Booby or something. I don't remember, but it's some word that means, from his other grandmother's culture, it means grandma. And he'd been around her a little bit more than me, and so that's what he was going to call me for grandma. But he was well into the age of understanding, no, I have another name, because he had a little sister who was very verbal and understood. So I said, no, I'm grandma. And he went, and then he'd say, oh, yeah. And then he'd go in the other room and something would come up, and he'd call me by the other name. And I'd go and I'd gently remind him, no, I want to be called grandma. I understand how you can get confused, but I want to be called grandma. Mm-hmm. Then this went on till about noon, and at that point, this grandma, that was with this whole deal. So next time his name, I'm not going to tell you what his name is, but if his name is Paul, I started calling him Frank. And I said, hey, Frank, do you see this? And he just got furious. Frank is not my name. I said, yes, I said, oh, really? But, okay, I'll try to remember not to call you Frank. And then he started calling me Grandma. But then every once in a while he'd slip into the other name. So the next time I addressed him, I would address him as Frank. And his little sister was watching all this, and she wasn't getting the whole deal. But by the end of that day, I was clearly Grandma. And I didn't have another name. But the image of Frank had been left in their household, and I didn't know I had a guide named Frank. And so, and the reason I point over that shoulder is because that's kind of where he hangs out, his energy. And my son said, oh, I found Frank so useful. And I said, why? And he said, well, if I'm cooking dinner, and he's a house husband. If I'm cooking dinner and getting things together, I tell Layla, go find Frank. And she goes all over the house because she's sure there's somebody named Frank here. I said, Sean, stop that. But anyway, that's about guides. I've helped people find their guides. When I do personal readings, if someone says, what's my guide's name? Addie will come and flash a name into me. And I've done it for some people. I've never not been able to find a name. I don't want to say I could always find a name because I haven't done it all that much. I've done it for a couple of years. Okay, does anybody now have a question that they want to answer? Because what we're going to get today is clarity about how to move our spirit and how we can go for it, how we can use, I think it's also using this day to know the difference between our intuition, really it's you who are defining what's the difference between your intuition and what's the difference between just knowing. I've talked to a couple of other readers when we had time off camera. Okay, what's the situation around the conversation with my mom about me using tarot cards? So we're going to see what the situation is around BC. I'm sensing, and I don't know if this is wrong. You feel like somehow you need permission from her. I think if you're big enough to type on a computer and be here, you're big enough to run your own thing. But we're going to see what the situation is between you and your mom about cards. It's something from your mother's past. She's very, very clouded by it. You're just going to go on and do what you need to do. She needs to get clear about whatever that situation in the past has nothing to do with you reading cards right now. She was told something terrible, frightening, or horrible. She may have run into a real gypsy type reader that really screwed with her brain. She's imparting her understanding of spiritual understanding from her heart, Now we're going to read you in these. You're trying to explain to her that this has something to do with your heart, that there's nothing false about it, that you've done this for generations. I think when you go into your, how do I know how to do this, you get that almost feeling of, I've done this before, I'm to bring it in now, and you're ready to move forward and carry it out. So we're going to do one value stone for your mom, since she's the one that carries this out of her past. Let's see. I'm going to deal with BC's mom and cards. She can change. You have to give her the grace to understand she can. And let's see, what is your... We're going to roll the spirit one for you. What's BC's way forward? The situation of BC, the way forward with cards. Just allow it to grow and come in for you. And part of the problem too is, BC, I think sometimes you do what all of us do. Trust me. There's not a day that I don't, when I sit down, that I don't go, can I do this today? I'm past it, but for years, I used to worry about that. Celtic Seer. She asked if I was going to be doing classes on the garden. I am going to be doing classes, real formal, do it on Zoom where you all are there and we can actually talk back and forth, classes about the garden. I'm going to offer it to people who own the garden, because it's kind of stupid to do it to people who don't own the garden. I'm working out a way to get a second camera from my location so we can look at the board, and it will go up. I'm going to do that in August when I've got all my spaces defined. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay, Celtic Seer. I'd love to help you find the name of a guide. If you email me, I'll do it. I can't. I'm afraid there's so many people. There's so much vibration off that chat board. I wasn't ready for that. That's why a lot of readers have someone else moderate the chat board so they don't even see it. Because there's a lot of energy floating around. It's like when I'm much better at reading people on Zoom, a phone call or something, to get guides' names than when I would even be working at times 10, because there's so many people walking back and forth, and in that space there's just a lot of energy. Okay, let's see. Situation around Angelita looking for another house. Well, it's definitely out of a sense of growth for yourself, because you've got the spirit in your sacral chakra, which is a lot of growth. I think the house you bought before now, it felt very comfortable. It felt like a lot of like where you'd lived before. That's definitely the vibration I'm getting off of here. I'll find my other piece of paper. Got a couple. Like I tell you, the most powerful stones are the ones when they're on the lines, just like on ley lines and on the planet. And your body is exactly divided between fire and earth. And physical changes are coming that are going to make the reason you're feeling this. And I think the movement's almost because you understand something's going to change in your life that's going to make the other house more valuable to you. And you've got your value stones between fire and water. And water is fire. I'm getting there, guys. I'm just slow to... Clarification comes... You're going to become really aware, and I mean like shortly, like by the end of this summer. I'm going to do another roll-on time for you with this, because you're doing this intuitively. Somehow you know you need to move, and it's like something's going on around you right in the presence. It's not your egos. I think it's your guides. But what we're going to do is a time element. See if I can read time on this. Good morning, Kathy G. I think it's going to be from summer into fall. I think by winter you're going to be in a new house. It's it's time. I don't know why it's time, but it's coming to you. You're going to know shortly. You're going to know within a month why you need to do this. There's going to be some real clarification, and it's a good move for you. And I don't think where you live now is bad. I mean, the way this would read is you can stay where you are, but there are better things coming if you open up to change. Oh, you got chills. Good. That's one of the things when I was channeling about the true space. It said you'll feel it in your whole body. It's like, I don't get chills, but I know Kim on Intuitive View says when she gets chills, it means all of her angels are saying, listen to this one. They're making her embody what she's feeling. Anybody else? Got moving questions, mother questions, tarot questions? Okay. I would like to know, get a garden. Would like to know about my future since I'm older and things are not good for me. Will I move with my future? Okay, let's see what Dorothy's future is bringing towards her. What's the situation around Dorothy's future? Oops, your mind's off the place, but it went by the Tree of Life and Harmony. You've got some great stuff coming in the fall and winter. The reason you're feeling down is I think you have a physical problem you haven't been able to get solved. But I see that it's a matter of digging harder. You've got the Spirit card straddling, exactly straddling, even though it's a U-shaped stone. The solar plexus, which is power and energy. You are going to weed out why you can't get to the power and energy you feel you should have. You've got true is, and remember what I told you, true is true. You've got clarity. You know what you need to do. Your future looks really bright, and you've got great things. You got the Tree of Life. You've got your Power Stone in the future. All the gifts are not yet recognized for you, and your Tree of Life, which is a great. I love this symbol. I love this part of the garden. I can't wait till I get dreamed what it's like to be in the Tree of Life. You should be opening yourself up to guidance. You're getting a lot of guidance. I think that's going to be what's going to help you get away from this health problem. I don't know if there's really a health problem there, but I think you've either had a health problem, you're coming out of it, you don't trust you're better, or you're coming, but this says you need to weed out. Restate doesn't mean say it over and over again. Restate means think about why you thought about it that way, get rid of the nasty things, and make space so the good plants can grow. Well, guys, I channeled this in. I learn every single day. I didn't know if you watched Danny. He does this thing called Spirit Sunday, which I really like to do. I like to wake up to Sunday to it. And he used my garden as the kickoff for his Spirit Sunday to ask him where to go. And he says, man, when I roll more than 2 stones at a time, I get lost. And so he's learning slowly, just practice. Okay, yeah, let's see. If Spirit has any messages for Stephanie. Situation. Next bright spot for Stephanie. Okay. You've got clarity on, it's in 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 space. 1, 2, 3. 6 spaces, girl. You've got clarity in your path is blessed with clarity and wisdom. You hit it and true. You've got some information coming to you that's going to be very helpful. You've got water, which is clarity. You have the clarity you need. Follow one of the many paths that you've seen before you in your life. You've got air. Be sure your thoughts are clear. You're getting really clear. And in the future, you've got ideas planted at this time will flourish. And I think you came in late, Stephanie. Look at the first part of this tape. I talk about how today is a very special day in the universe. It's the time off day. It's called day out of time, and it's because this is the one day that wasn't in the Mayan calendar. Obviously, we went through the 24 hours, but it didn't have specific, it wasn't tied to a month, it wasn't tied to a lunar cycle. So it's sort of an open time when we can all get in the vortex. And one of the things Danny's talked about is how when he looks at this now, he sees a vortex. He sees all the energy swirling around in here. My spine is making micro shifts every day. Yeah, we're going to see about Eliza's spine shifts. Yes, it's your spirit saying go for it. So I think you're exactly right. You're going into 4 and 5D from where you are right now. Your body is really in the present. In other words, you're embodying what's going on around you. Your mind is, you're tied to some old past things. Let that go. A shift doesn't necessarily have to mean pain. You've got, your values are in the nexus of, you've got all the elements pulling for you, and you've got clarity about what all this is coming towards you. Yes, you are moving, you are shifting, and that's what's going on. It shifts your body as well as your mind, as well as your visual things, because you're changing the illusion of the patterns that are happening around you. Okay, well, let's see if we can see anything for Alicia. We're going to see anything that's good that's coming up for Alicia. That's what I'm trying for. Situation around Alicia. Okay. You're too tied to your past right now, Alicia. You need to let that go. You do have a real spiritual change coming towards you. It's coming out of earth and going into water. Your value stone and mind are in air. Your thoughts, everything you think is all important to how things are changing. And your value stone says that mental actions are your path to abundance. And this being it's in fire, water, and air. And that's your body. And your body is telling you, you need to help by grounding. Physical changes are clearly coming to you. No, that's the one that you don't have. Embody your past, ground your thoughts. You got 2 of the grounding. Ground your body. Find some meditations to ground, and you're going to clearly see where the transition in your life is going in a positive way. Yeah, it's a strange day. This last full moon, this whole end of this month, outside of astrology, has been kind of a weird, trippy thing. I want to show you a couple things I got. I had a lady I did a reading for, and she sent me these. And you don't have to send me crystals, guys. Honest to God, I have drawers full of them. But she saw these and thought of me because they're fluorites, and they're raw fluorite, uncut, unpolished, anything. And they're really pretty. They're translucent. They have like rainbows of color in them. And I really appreciate the gift. But this came from a special friend of mine who went to Mount Shasta and wanted to send me back some obsidian. And he did. This little guy's obsidian. It's very shiny and black and very angular. He also got me some tourmaline, which he didn't understand. I mean, you know, black stones and boxes all look like black stones. Tourmaline also forms in volcanic vents. Obsidian forms, and it's actually natural glass. And if you ever work with obsidian or get some, be very careful with it because you can cut yourself. It's what people used for knives before we had metals to make knives. And obsidian is an incredible protection stone. It's a wonderful stone, but tourmaline is also a very strong protection stone, and it comes out of the vents in volcanoes. And the way you can tell the difference is tourmaline has almost a bark-like structure, and it creates itself in these long tube-like, I mean, well, they're not tube, they're 4 or 6-sided, but they're tube-like looking structures. And when he and I were talking about it, he said, "Did you get the obsidian?" And I said, "Yeah, and I got the tourmaline too." And he goes, "It was in the obsidian box." So I brought him out and sat with him and explained it. And he said, "Oh," and I said, "But I love that too, because I have a giant piece of tourmaline that's literally this long and about that big around, sitting by my front door. It's a guardian stone." Yeah, you're on target. Just go for the ride, girl, because our hearts are being moved. The energy around us is completely changing. We're going to do some more about vibration and frequency. What I loved about the two videos, if you didn't see it, Danny and I did a video a couple days ago. It's up on my channel. It's called Good Vibrations. And it's about frequency and vibration. And we talk about these terms metaphysically, and I can feel a lot of them. But what we found were two physics experiments where they, as a friend of mine who's an architect said, they take the invisible and make it visible. And one is a bunch of swinging pendulums, and another one is they suspend a drop of water between two acoustic fields, and the water's like in the middle, and then they change the harmonics, and the drop of water actually forms the shapes of sacred geometry. The one, the two points, the three spins like a triangle. Then there's one that's a four and it spins, makes a five-sided object, a six-sided thing on the drop of water, 7 sides and 8 sides. You can't see it, it's spinning so fast, but if you freeze one of those pictures, you'll see there's 8 lines there. When they get in the harmonics, at least in this experiment, when they got above 8, the drop disintegrated. But it's fascinating, and those are the kind of vibrations I work with when I build grids. Like the lady who said, yeah, I try to fire my grid up every day and it was confusing it. When I left it alone, all of a sudden she started sleeping all night, she started healing, she started having a lot of more clarity in her life. I can't promise that to you. I built one grid. One of the people who wrote back to me, I said, how's your grid working? And she said, absolutely nothing's happened, but I guess it's just not my time. I just feel like it's not my time. Well, as long as she's feeling like it's not her time and the grid's there, it can fire up when it wants to for her. Yeah, there's a lot of this next 6 months is it's a real ride for all of us. It's a real power ride for everyone. I like to talk about readers and people I like to hear from. There's a guy named Lee Harris, and he channels the Z's. Don't let that hold you. Don't hold that against him. I mean, I didn't know he was a channeler until I'd seen several of his speeches that were full of incredibly good wisdom. Then I found out he channels aliens. But he has been seeing for a long time these changes, and he's really good at telling you about how to position yourself and deal with that. And the one I saw yesterday was it was something about clearing the chaos or divorcing the chaos. That's what he's saying, divorcing the chaos, because change brings chaos. In the world of Tarot, 5 means great freedom or great freedom or chaos. That's what I learned when I learned numerology. 5 means freedom or chaos. If you're free, it means you organized your information well, you can use it well, you can use it in a planned way, in an organized mind. A certain orange president we used to have has a life path of 5. So if you want to look at chaos in the number 5, and apparently he doesn't have a lot other tempering it in his numerology, so he just... So 5 is change, and it's interesting because change can be something, it's never comfortable. I don't know how many of you people out there are moms or have been parents to small children. But I remember when I was trying to pass calculus, because I went and got a master's in business after having a degree in fine arts. And so they said if I could pass calculus and pass the beginning accounting course, I scored high enough on my entry tests that they would let me in. So I had to pass this course. And I had stopped math in geometry. I just thought that was the most boring thing in the world. And then I ended up working with sacred geometry, go figure. But when I was studying for my calculus, I just wanted to throw the book across the wall. I wanted to there's no way I could figure this out, but I had a classmate who was raised in England, and she learned math very well, because in England, girls are supposed to be better in math than boys. and boys are supposed to be better in literature. It's kind of the flip of us, and pretty much that's what happens. The girls are always really good in math because everybody expects them to be. So this is learning to expectations. But she was really, really good. So she said, well, you just don't understand trigonometry very well. And I said, it's because I never took it. So she got me a book, Trigonometry for Dummies, and said, when these terms show up, go read in this book and figure it out. I was self-teaching myself trigonometry along while I was doing calculus, and it was a mind-numbing experience. But at the same time, my son, who's now 45, was learning to walk. And I would watch him struggle to get up, to walk, and he'd fall down, and he didn't give up, and he just kept going. And I thought, my God, I did that once. Now I walk around just fine. I can pass this damn class. I did pass calculus. I got it with a P, which you can get a D and get a P in graduate school, but I passed it. And when I went and interviewed with the professor about some of the problems I was having, and he found out I'd never taken trigonometry before, he said, how the hell are you getting through this? So he had me analyze some problems with him. And he said, oh my God, you're coming at it from a completely different direction, but it works, which has sort of been the story of my life. Focus has been, you have to start with your heart. When I talked about my weight loss, I had to work with my heart and the power around my heart to begin to get my body in shape, to think that it could begin to heal itself and lose weight. Oh, yes. And in the notes below and the comment, I couldn't remember, but it was a Japanese scientist who came up with this thing. If you put 2 jars of water beside each other, and one jar you put a label on that says love, and one that you say hate. And then he would have his lab assistants go in every day, and they'd curse out the one that had hate on it, and they would love, 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 and send good vibrations to one that said love. And within a month, you can do this experiment at home. It really does work. The one that had been treated and barraged with hate was murky and ugly and had gotten goopies in it, and the one that was love was still clear. So, Patty, you may have just made it to make it to the last roll. I have time since we're talking about the day out of time and it comes out of lunar cycles, I'm going to use my Moonology Oracle deck. In case y'all didn't notice, I still use cards. And when I do readings, I use cards, stones, garden, whatever works. I use pendulums when I do past life stuff. I'm going to do a show where I include pendulums in the intro about the garden as part of that garden too. I've got 12 more days to fill, guys. So if you have any suggestion of what you'd like to learn about, let me know. I will find it. I will learn it. I will find what catches my eye about it. Okay. This is Yasmin Boland's new Moonology card. And what card do we get? Full moon in Gemini, but the message from the full moon in Gemini is the answers you need are coming. And I had a lot of you who had answers you're trying to get clear about. I think they're coming. I think just hang in there. Keep visiting me. Keep going and seeing other readers. The only other thing I've got going this week, yes, about purifying water in the Ganges. Yeah, that river should be a sludge pit, but I guess it still flows. The only other thing I've got going is Wednesday. I will be doing a show with a former partner of mine in politics, and Sheila. And if you've ever wondered about what it takes to run for office, we're going to talk about it from the point of view, if you're a candidate, what you need to think about, consider, know, questions to ask yourself. It's actually about somewhere between 10 and 20 questions you need to ask yourself to see if you're ready to go there. It can give you a way to get ready. We need more people from our world. We need more 4 and 5D people in that arena. You can go in that arena and still be safe. I came out alive. And so did my partner, and he's an incredible person in many, many, many ways. But we're going to go over what you need to know. So, because sometimes when we would interview people and we'd say, this is what's going to go on around you. Is your family on board with this? And they'd go home, talk to their family, and they'd call us up and say, no, they really, once I told them what could be coming our way, they weren't for it. Jackie, I can tell you this. I'm on at 1 p.m. every day for the next 12 days, at least, maybe a little longer. And then the other time I go up is if I do a show, it goes up at 7. But tech support's enjoying the beach in South Carolina. So he's not here to help me, so I'm doing nothing but live shows. You have to put, oh yeah, everybody please punch like, because when you guys do that, then a lot of other people get to see my videos, and then they tell their friends, and then their friends tell their friends. So, love and light to everyone. Go out and enjoy the hell out of your day out of time. It's a day that you can relax completely. Several of the articles I read, it said relax completely. Just let energy flow around you. Others say it's a day that's okay to go do heavy meditation and try to get into vortexes. Personally, I think after the full moon and what we've been going through, it's now time to go inside ourselves and find out what we need to do to take care of ourselves. Okay? I love you all. Thank you so much for coming here. Like, share, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. And I will see you